Welcome back everyone to Blended's Unreal Engine 5, the complete beginner's guide, and this is where we left it off. Alright, if I grab all of this now, I'm going to go over to my UV editing, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to spin this all around, so R90, and now let's have a look what that looks like. It should look much better, albeit probably the UVs on these are too big. So let's make them smaller and have a look. Are they going to be too big or too small? Let's make them bigger. Going both ways. I think actually that looks much better when they're smaller. Although we have got some repeating, as you can see, and we don't really want that. So maybe we've gone too big. So what we're going to do is just bring it out and get rid of that repeating. If we put it there, still got enough resolution without it repeating. So yes, they are looking much better. All right, so now let's go to shading. We should be able to see them like this. Double tap the A, and then all I'm going to do on the shading panel this time is I'm going to bring in a RGB just to give you some control over how it's going to look, because this actual data can also be transferred into Unreal Engine, which you'll find out about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in an RGB curve. So search RGB curve. And this is the one that's basically going to make it, you know, darker, lighter. And then what I want to do is bring in a color ramp, and the color ramp is going to be the one that accentuates the different colors within the actual texture. So now what I'm going to do is bring in a color ramp. So color ramp, like so. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to bend this very slightly down. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this up a little bit, and I'm also going to put this on a nice brownish color. So if I bring that in, got a nice brown, maybe a little tad more yellow. Bring it out a little bit, like so. Bring it brown, and let's have a look. If I bring this one out, I'm going to make this a little bit darker, I think. So, too much. So, and we've also got to think as well that this is going to be also for our, you know, the roof parts that hold all the thatching on. So I'm just wondering whether this should also be, I don't want to really bring that out, so I want to bring in a little bit. Okay, so that's brought out all those lumps and bumps and things like that. I've probably gone a little bit too much, so I'm going to go back like so. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it a little bit darker now. So I think I'm happy with that. I just may need it darker. It's a little bit too light. So let's press Shift A, and we're going to look for a gamma and bring that in. And now with the gamma, should be able to bring it down or bring it back. So yes, that's looking much nicer. Maybe I've gone a little bit too much. Then what I'm going to do is just play around with this. A little bit of control. So, and then I think finally we'll just saturate it out a bit because it's a little bit too yellow. So to saturate it out, we just need a hue in saturation. What do I mean? I mean remove some of the yellow tone on it. So hue, saturation, drop that in. And then if we just turn this saturation down, you can see now we can wash that out just a tad like so. I think now that's looking, they're looking pretty nice. So let's have a look what it actually looked like before. So if I grab this one here, plug this in to the base color, this is what it looked like before. And this is what it looks like now. So you can see huge difference between them. All right, so now we've got that. I'm very happy with that. Now we need to focus on the back parts here. So these back parts here. So let's do those now. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come in. I'm going to grab both of these with face select. So grab this one and this one. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to press, I think I'll actually split these up from these. So I'm just going to press P, selection. I'm going to put it on object mode, jaws, for the time being. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come into these, press tab, A, U, make sure we unwrap them. I'm going to minus off then this light crack wood. You can't do this in edit mode, so just do it in object mode. then I'm going to press new, glass. Even though it's not glass, it's just something where we know, okay, this is for the windows. Control Shift T, and then what we're going to do is go back, and we're going to look for glass, which is this one here. Bring them all in. There we go. Double tap the A, and now what we're going to do is just have a quick check what it looks like, render out, and there you go. You can see it's got that really, really nice look of actually having some depth inside of it, and that's exactly what we're going for. All right, so let's go back to modeling mode. There we go. Let's save out our work. And let's now do something a little bit different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to first of all grab both of these. So I'm going to come in, Alt Shift click, Alt Shift click. I'm going to press F, and then I'm going to press Y to take it away from those, and then I should be able to move it like so. And then all I'm going to do now, you can see non-manifold, which means that if I come in, let's say I want to triangulate this. Let's go into face select, right click, triangulate faces. This is all of the actual points. So what do I mean by that? If I come in, you can see all of these points are here. And what it means is that this face is an n-gon, but it has non-manifold edges as well because it's bent in and things like that. We don't actually ever want n-gons really in any of our builds. We want to make sure that we avoid n-gons. So in other words, we have a polygon at 4 sides and then a triangle at 3 sides. When you send it through to Unreal Engine, it always triangulates everything. So just be aware of that. If you ever get a mesh that comes into, you know, your Blender file and it's all triangulated, you might not actually want to work with triangulation. So if you don't, let's just triangulate it for 1 second. So I'm going to come to face select again, right click, triangulate faces. And then what I'm going to do is right click, tries to quads. So you can see that we can change all of those triangles to quads. Now, when you bring a mesh in, sometimes it won't change all of the triangles to quads, but it will change, you know, the majority of them that it can to quads, just to make it a little bit easier to work with. Normally what that means is when you've brought it from a different software into Blender, a model, it's normally triangulated because that's just what happens when you bring it in. There's also an option as well if you want to triangulate it when you import something in to make sure it is triangulated. Either way, we don't actually want it like this. We want to work with just a basic door. So all we're going to do is press delete, come down, limit to dissolve. That's going to get rid of all of those now. All of those little vertexes are gone. And now we can actually make a start on our door. So what I'm going to do is Control R. I'm going to bring in enough planks of wood first of all to make our door. Left click, right click. Now the reason I brought in 4 is because I want to have a kind of Viking-esque look on these 2 parts here, and this is where the door handle is going to be. Now we've done that, what we need to do is bring in some more edge loops. So Control R, left click, right click, and we're basically doing that just so we can have a little bit of variation. The wood looks a little bit different, and then what we can do is we can just come in, right click, mark a seam, and now we can split these off pretty easily. So if I come in now, press L, L, and L, Y, and there we go. There is our actual Viking doors. Now, what we can do now is we can actually pull them out. But before we do that, what I want to do is I want to grab this one, and I'm going to use this to make that little pattern on the front. So I'm going to press Shift D. I'm going to bring it out like so. I'm going to put this on object mode. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in, press 1 on the number pad. Actually, before I do that, let me just split these up. So P, selection, and now I'm going to grab them, press Control A, all transforms, right click, set origin to geometry. And then what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to create that Viking look. In fact, we'll do that on the next lesson because we're running out of time, and I'd sooner focus that next lesson on the door as well. All right, everyone, so I hope you enjoyed that. See you on the next one. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.